I'm Warren Pohl, one of the co-founders at 33 Shake, and welcome to another episode of the 33 Shake vlog. On today's episode, we are going to be looking at stomach trouble during exercise, why athletes always puke the same colour, and what you can do to avoid this happening to you. So if you've ever suffered with stomach issues during races, this is the show for you. Because at 33 Shake, we are all about delivering maximum value to endurance athletes. And we do it in these videos by sharing the latest in training, nutrition and mindset tips for your performance. And we do it in store at 33shake.com with our groundbreaking natural sports nutrition products. And with that said, let's get on with the show. So, why do athletes always puke the same colour? How did we even find this out? We were doing a keynote for a professional team on how to avoid stomach trouble during exercise. And we were pulling together some visual references. And when we did, the evidence was staring us quite literally in the face. Every vomiting athlete we found a picture of was vomiting some shade of yellow. Got us thinking, why was this? Now, there's an obvious reason. There are two obvious reasons, in fact. First obvious reason is, well, they're vomiting bile, and bile is yellow. And the second reason is that they've eaten something yellow. So, if you vomit while you are dehydrated, or while you have an empty stomach, then there can be a high content of bile in it. It's going to make it yellowy. If you've been, eating custard for a week, that also, if you were then sick, would contribute to that being very yellow. But neither of these two things explain what is actually triggering the vomiting. They are part of the effect, i.e. it's yellow because they don't explain why you vomited in the first place. Now, we can rule out sport as a cause for athletes vomiting pretty easily because thousands of athletes, runners, cyclists, triathletes worldwide go about their sporting business without being sick. It's pretty obvious the sport on its own is not the cause. What are the common causes of throwing up yellow? Well, there are four. The first is binge drinking. The second is food poisoning. The third is excess stomach acidity. And the fourth is respiratory inflammation. Now, binge drinking, I think we can pretty safely say that for an athletic audience, that is unlikely to be the cause. And if it is, then the athlete in question has far bigger fish to fry than worrying about puking up a bit of yellow every now and again. As an aside, if you're interested in how alcohol, or even if alcohol and athletic performance go hand in hand, we wrote a blog post about exactly that. There'll be a link to that in the show notes. But back to our other three causes. So, food poisoning, that's eating something that doesn't agree with you. Excess stomach acidity is also related to eating something that doesn't agree with you, because when you eat too much acidic food, which tends to be highly processed foods, junk foods, also a lot of dairy, red meat, that increases the acidity in the stomach. And respiratory inflammation can also be triggered by those same acidic foods. It's just, triggering that inflammation in the body. So all of those have something to do with what went into the stomach. But what does the science say about athletes being sick? If you go and do a deep dive, as we did, you will find the science says a lot about athletes being sick. Also confirms that as endurance athletes, us runners, cyclists and triathletes are most at risk. One study discovered that 83% of marathon runners reported problems. But despite there being enough scientific study of vomiting athletes to fill several libraries many times over, there's a huge and really rather glaring omission in all of it, from what we could see. You see, while carbohydrate and fluid intake, gastric emptying rates, blood pressure, heart rate, and much more are painstakingly, frankly, analysed to death, inside out and back to front, what any of the subjects in these tests and reports are eating before, during, and after exercise, i.e. what is going into their stomach, isn't mentioned at all. Now, with all of the core causes of yellow vomit being related to an adverse reaction to something that's gone into the stomach, this seems like a pretty glaring omission. It's the kind of omission that other professionals in other fields would probably lose their jobs over. Let's imagine the great Inspector Hercule Poirot is called to investigate a murder, and on the floor is the victim in a giant splatter of organs and death with a huge blunderbuss next to him. If Poirot were to ignore that blunderbuss in favour of perhaps examining the victim's shoelaces, his belt, what he was wearing, what time of day it was, I don't think Poirot would keep his job very long. So, is there a smoking gun in the case of athletes and the weird case of the yellow puke? It kind of seems that there is. Because can it really be a coincidence that all of these athletes are puking the same colour when primarily in endurance sports the majority are going to be using ordinary sports nutrition products before, during and after the event? Now, when we look at ordinary sports nutrition products, we'll find it's made primarily from processed powders and sugars that are highly processed, acid forming, can be inflammatory, and often yellow in colour. The first three, the highly processed food, the fact it's acid forming, the fact it's inflammatory, we know they all contribute to vomiting, while the yellow ingredients then contribute to the colour further. Many ordinary gels have a yellow tint, for example, and the main ingredient in pretty much most ordinary sports nutrition products for endurance athletes is often maltodextrin, and the most common source for that is it is processed out of corn or maize, same thing, different names, which is also yellow. So, how can you avoid throwing up in your next race? Well, first of all, you can check out our ultimate guide to beating stomach trouble on our blog, and I'll link to that in the show notes below. Short read, full of the simple tips you need to avoid this happening to you. You can also make a great whole food diet the foundation of all of your nutrition. Get that on point, and there's not too much else that you need. When you're fueling during a race, make sure you fuel to hunger and not to schedule. Now, this is a much broader subject than we have time for here, but as a basic rule, you're going to be eating when you're hungry, you're going to be drinking when you're thirsty. You are not going to be forcing down food every 30 minutes or whatever it is because some manufacturer's schedule told you to. 9 times out of 10 or more, those manufacturers' schedules are designed to sell product and not to help you. So force feeding yourself isn't the answer. On the subject of hydration, stick to water, avoid the sports drinks. That is also going to help you keep the volume of processed junk that you are ingesting down while you can keep the whole foods up. All of that leads to a happier, healthier stomach. So you should not be coating your latest run shoes or your brand new bike in yellow vomit. So the other thing you could do if you want to try it is to check out our Chia energy gels. They are the only whole food natural energy gel that you can get out there. So if you're looking to incorporate a better quality form of fueling into your endurance, something that better matches the quality of diet you would normally strive for in day-to-day life, why not check us out? Now look, I hope you found that helpful. That is what we're here to do. Thanks very much for watching, and if there are any other topics that you'd like us to cover in these videos, then why not leave us a note in the comments below. Alternatively, you can join us on social media or reach out to us on email. All of the links for that are also in the show notes below. And if you do want to check out our natural sports nutrition products, you can find us at 33shake.com.